Hey guys. Sorry, I forgot lipstick again. I just realized that. I'll give you guys. Well, that was really pleasant, right? Alrighty. I'll give you guys a second to get on. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and get your cup of tea, get your coffee, whatever it is that you want. Get a notepad, a pen, all that good stuff. And then we'll get started in a few minutes. Seriously, I should keep like lipstick in my desk. Sorry, guys. My mom saw me, she'd be like cursing me. No, I'm just kidding, Mom. If you're watching this, you won't be cursing me. No. Oh well. All right, I'll give you guys a few minutes. It's kind of a quirky time, 10 a.m. It's 11 a.m. early lunch on the East Coast. And 8 a.m. you may not even be done dropping the kids off at school. If you are a mom that's dropping off kids. So we'll give it a few more minutes to get going. And when you hop on, let me know you're here. Hey, whoever popped on. We are going to get started in a few minutes. You'll have to let me know who you are. I can't see. Guys, it feels like Thursday. I'm tired. I hope you guys are feeling a little more energized. Maybe we will just get started. Hey, Elena. Good morning. I guess it's like almost lunchtime where you are, huh? Hey, Alicia. How are you? I was trying to get this up. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just go ahead and get started. Sorry, guys. I don't know what my deal is with my like hacking this morning. It's like not good. Okay. So I was thinking really hard about, yeah, it's 11 a.m. See, it's like your early lunch. I eat lunch early, so 11 a.m. my time, I'm usually eating lunch. Okay. So today we're going to talk environmental, well, we're going to talk all kinds of triggers. It was funny because I was trying to think what I was going to do for day 4 because I knew I wanted to keep emotions for the very last day because emotions is a really big one and I feel like you have to do something really big on the last day, right? So I really wanted to do something that something kind of juicy, but I wanted to keep emotions. So then I was thinking about triggers. And food itself can be a trigger, right? But also there are so many different types of triggers, whether it's environmental or biological. So today I wanted to go over what that looks like. And we're going to go over a few of them and then we'll do some journal prompts, okay? So biological triggers. We talked about this one on the very first day, right? When we talked about cravings. This is hunger, this is thirst, this is cravings. This can be brought on by hormones, like ladies during your cycle at that time of month. We have more cravings than we typically do, you know, all the rest of the weeks of the month. But these are biological triggers that you can't really like control necessarily. Does that make sense? And then we have environmental triggers. So this is seeing or smelling food. This is seeing a commercial for something, seeing something on television. And all of a sudden you like want it. So I was thinking about, this is like when you're sitting watching TV and you notice that there's like a KFC commercial on, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, fried chicken and some mashed potatoes and gravy sound really good right about now. Or one of the things that I notice myself doing is if I'm watching a TV show and there's like a bunch of ladies and they're sitting around and they're drinking wine and they're having a good time like on the TV series, I'm like, man, that looks like fun. Maybe I should go get a glass of wine. So maybe I need to journal through that one myself. But that's one of those things that comes up. It's just one of those environmental triggers. It's one of those things that you see and you're like, ooh, that looks really good, right? You're making me hungry and I'm starving and ready for lunch. Sorry, Alicia. So that's one of those things that we think about. Like if we just think about it, we literally will start wanting that food, okay? So then we have emotional triggers. And like I said, we're gonna go over all of that tomorrow. So that's like stress, anxiety, sadness, loneliness, boredom, when we're happy, when we want to celebrate, when we're excited. There's so many different emotional triggers that will cause us to, you know, overeat certain foods. And that one, like I said, stay tuned tomorrow. We're gonna go over all that in like great detail. And then you have social triggers. This is when you're offered food or you are around people in a social setting, okay? So the best example that I can give for this is my grandmother's house. My grandmother is Sicilian, and she shows love with food. Like, hands down, that's just the way it is, right? Love equals food for her. And we joke around because there was this one incident where, this one memory I have, and my husband and I were dating, and we went over to her house, and we had just literally left the restaurant, had dinner. We go to her house, and she goes, so what have you guys been doing? And we tell her, you know, we just left the restaurant, blah, blah, blah. She goes, okay, I'll make you a plate. And I said, no, Graham, like, we just ate, we don't need anything. And she goes, oh, well, I'll just get out a few things. And I swear, she's a baker. She like actually has a catering business. And I swear, within 5 minutes, her entire table is covered in cookies and pies and cakes and different things that she wanted us to try because she was trying out new, you know, recipes and things like that. And that's what I'm talking about, that social situation where you are just absolutely triggered by people, you know, insisting on you sitting down to eat, or you know, being just offered that food. Like if you're in the break room at the office and someone says, hey, so-and-so brought donuts, you want one? And it's like, no, I didn't, but now that they're in front of me, yes, right? Do you guys feel me on this one? Okay. And then you have mental triggers. So mental triggers is a little bit different. This is like the thinking about food. So this kind of goes back to like seeing it on TV, but this you can do all on your own. Like you don't even need to have the TV prompting you for this. This is something that you do all on your own, meaning you start imagining food. Like you start thinking about it. You start remembering like good times that you had with food, fond memories, or you start remembering bad times with food. So maybe it's something like you didn't have a lot to eat when you were a kid, right? You guys didn't have a lot of money. Maybe sometimes you remember the pantry was really empty at times and you didn't have the food that you wanted. And then it's like, you know what? That one little memory of not having that food drives you to want to go eat something right then, and you're not even hungry. And then typically you overeat because you're so driven by this memory that you didn't have enough. Does that make sense? So this is also a super interesting one, because I bet if you sat down right now and I said, close your eyes, I want you to think about your favorite food. I want you to hold this image in your mind. I want you to imagine how it would taste. Your biological self would start salivating at it. And it's simply because your body is preparing for you to have that. So something as simple as just imagining it can actually start the body's processes for digesting that food. Isn't that incredible? I don't know, maybe that's just me, but it's about thinking about a food can make you want it. Just thinking about a food can make you want it. And then you have certain trigger foods. Trigger foods are interesting because we all have trigger foods and they're all different for everybody. Everybody has a different type of trigger food. This is a specific food, or let's say a type of food. So Alicia, the other day you mentioned like pasta. Well, it could be a very specific food. Like it has to be, I'm trying to think of a food, like apple pie. Apple pie could be it. It's super, super specific. Or it could be something kind of general, like all pasta does it for me, right? And it's a food that you cannot resist. So no matter under whatever circumstances it is, you just can't seem to resist that one food. Maybe it's chocolate, maybe it's the breadsticks at the Italian restaurant, Stacy mac and cheese, Alicia fettuccine alfredo. Like now we're getting hungry, right, guys? But it's something that you literally cannot stop eating. So every single person has a different trigger. For somebody, maybe chocolate bar. It's interesting, Stacy, that you said mac and cheese, because there are some people like myself who homemade mac and cheese is not triggering for me. A box mac and cheese, like a Kraft box mac and cheese, is super triggering. Elena, yeah, we talked about M&Ms. There are certain foods, for whatever reason, are super triggering. And maybe those trigger foods are situational. So like breadsticks are not triggering to you. However, if you walk into an Italian restaurant and you sit down, those breadsticks are very triggering. Or maybe, you don't eat chips and salsa, but when you go to the Mexican food restaurant, it's super triggering because it's right in front of you, right? So that's also kind of situational. We'll get into that. But basically, they're staring at you in the face, and you just want to eat them because they're there. You really enjoy those foods. And some of it has to do with, like, if you grew up not having a lot of food, that could definitely be a driver. So, like, Elena, if you grew up not having M&Ms, maybe that was a driver. Or if you grew up with that being one of those things that your parents really, that was like the reward. Even if it wasn't like completely literal reward, it could have been like the reward for something. Maybe that's how you guys celebrated. There's always some sort of connection there. Okay, so then you have trigger situations, right? This is fun because this is fun. This is when we associate a situation with a food. So like when we go to the movies, you have to get the popcorn extra butter. You have to get the Twizzlers. You have to get the big, huge Diet Coke. And it's because that's just what you do at the movies, right? It's just what you do. Or you go to a baseball game and you have to get the hot dog and Cracker Jacks and a cold beer because that's what you do. Like, that's what you get. I used to have mac and cheese as a kid, so it's a comfort food now, but I can't have it because of my lactose intolerance. Yeah. Well, then I guess that takes care of that trigger for you, Stacy, huh? Sometimes they take care of themselves. So, but like at the baseball game, and I'm not saying that like I'm not knocking that at all because there is a place for that. Like when I go to the Astros game, that's our baseball team here in Houston, not the best, this year's better. About, once every 3 years we'll go. We don't go very often, but yeah, I'll get the Dome Dog because that's what you get. But at the same time, sometimes we are eating foods overeating these foods just simply because we're in the situation for it. And then there's times that trigger us, right? Certain times of the day, certain times of the week. Usually it's every time we went out to eat or on vacation, I would need nachos. Yeah, isn't it weird? It's like, oh, you know what? We're going on a trip. Like, ooh, and that kind of goes back to the whole indulgences thing, right? It's vacation. So I deserve something special, and I'm going to get those nachos that I've been depriving myself of, right? So trigger times. This is like different days of the week. Maybe, Usually it's like late afternoons and evenings. That's when I hear the most. I've made nachos with bell peppers and no cheese now. Yeah, how did that satisfy you? So this is driven more biologically. For example, late afternoon. Usually you eat a meal around noon, right? Most of us eat lunch. And then about 3 o'clock, we feel like that slump. Some of that's biological because your body is processing the food. It's doing all the work that it needs to do. Sorry, just a little bit. Oh, good. I'm glad it worked for you. They're processing all the foods, and about 3 o'clock is when our blood sugar kind of takes a dip. And it's not because of you doing anything different. Like, yes, if you have, more sugary foods at lunch, it's going to have a bigger dip, but everybody has that slight slump, right? And so that's when we crave a little bit of extra energy. Most of the time it's in the form of like caffeine or sugar to get us through the rest of our day. And then the early evening. So I hear this all the time from clients. I do so good all day long, and then at the very end of the day, I just, cave and I eat all these trigger foods that I wasn't even really hungry for. I just wanted them, right? And the reason that we do this is because we've either, one, we've not met the nutrition requirements throughout the day, like your specific nutrient requirements, you haven't met them throughout the day, or two, you've deprived yourself too much throughout the day and your body is looking for something, like it needs something. You didn't give it enough. And that's why at the end, we can do so good all day long, and then we cave at the very end, okay? And then the very last one of the minutes, behavioral triggers. Okay, so this is skipping meals. This is I have to finish my meal. This is the grazers. So we all have different behavioral tendencies, and these, I'm going to tell you right now, not to knock anybody and how they grew up, but most of these behavioral tendencies come from childhood. These are all the messages that we heard when we were kids, okay? And guilty of grazing, that's me, yeah. Yeah, you know what? I'll go through this one too, and I'll elaborate. So skipping meals. This one, it comes out of, like that whole diet mentality. If I just skip a meal, then, I'm cutting my calories, I'll lose weight. But we know that that's not the case. We know that your body's going to go in starvation mode. We know that the next time you eat, you're going to hold on to everything for dear life. We know that your body's in higher fat storage mode. We know all of these things. But what also happens is when we skip meals, we become overly hungry. And we've all been there where, you're starving, you're making dinner, and you're literally eating the house out as you make dinner because you're so hungry. That's when we are more likely to overeat. We have the meal finishers. This is the Clean Plate Club. This is kids in Africa are starving. You need to finish everything because and that's the disconnect. By finishing everything, we are actually creating, to not waste it, we're actually creating waste in our bodies. So I always tell people, it's a choice. Do you want it to waste in the trash can? Do you want it to waste in your body? Either way, too much is going to go to waste. It just depends on where it's getting wasted. Does that make sense? Could eat from 4 till dinner time, then not want to eat dinner. Yeah. So I would look, Elena, at what's going on between 4 till dinner time. I bet it's when you've got the kids and they're cranky and they're crispy and they just got back from school and they're exhausted, and it's a tough mama like time for you. Because that's my time when I'm like, ah. Okay, so that's the meal finishers. That's like everything, the Clean Plate Club, right? And then you have grazing. When we snack or we graze or we're at a party and we're eating a lot of finger foods, we just have no idea how much we're actually eating. And this is a major cause of overeating because we're not being mindful. We have no idea what we're consuming. We're just eating usually socializing, and we're just distracted by it. So we end up eating way more than we need to, and we don't even realize it. A lot of times, the very first thing that I have my clients do is start tracking, and it helps me understand the patterns, that emotional patterns and eating patterns that I can see, and I can tweak things, right? And 9 times out of 10 people go, I had no idea. That was a real eye-opener. Just marking it for 3 days was a huge eye-opener. And so I think that when we graze, that is one of those things that we end up finding when we actually track how many times we go to reach for something. So today I wanted, let me see. Yep, it is. Yeah, Elena. I do all of these things. So Alicia, you're not alone. The reason that I'm able to put all this stuff together, guys, is because this is me. I do all these things. Like, I have every single type of, like, or I have experienced. I have to say that I've done a lot of work, right? I have experienced like every single type of dysregulated eating, overeating, limiting eating, trigger eating, like any type that there is. Sorry, that was my youngest sister. She's actually getting a degree in nutrition too, so she asks a lot of questions. She was asking, this is really funny though, guys. She was asking about which book I thought would be helpful to understand the body-mind connection. So I thought that's funny. Okay, so the reason that I get it is because I've done it all. Like, I've literally done all of the bad, not bad, but all of the dysregulated eating that is possible to do. So anyways, let's get to journaling. So if you get your journals out, prompt 1, we're gonna just pick one. And I think it would be best to do trigger foods. Reply to her book, you're gonna write it. Yeah, Stacy, right? I'm gonna write it. You know, a lot of people talk about writing books, and that feels very, very overwhelming to me. I don't know if I'm ready for that. So trigger foods. Let's do that. Let's pick trigger foods, because there's a lot of different things. We could do like behavioral triggers, we could do trigger times, we could do situations, we could do all of those, right? But for the purpose of today, and you can actually take everything that we did today and you can just keep doing it for all of these types of situations. So if you want to watch the replay, just go through and do this same exercise for every single situation, every single food, and you're going to learn a lot. I mean, it'll take you a little bit of time, but you'll learn a lot. So today we're going to do trigger foods. So prompt 1, you're going to ghostwrite the book with me, Alicia. Woohoo! Can you like write it? No, just kidding. And I was thinking about you the other day, because part of my program is all about self-love. And I was thinking, you know what, I should have a guest expert on. Maybe I should pull you, because like that's what we work on a lot of is self-love, because that's a huge component of learning how to take care of yourself and knowing that you deserve to take care of yourself and all that. So we need to get together. So prompt 1, I've said this like 4 times, trigger foods. These are the foods that you are eating. Woohoo, let's do it. You pick a trigger food that you literally cannot eat a reasonable portion of, okay? Like, you know, you cannot control yourself with this one food. Let's do that food. And typically these foods are cookies, cakes, sweets. I'm trying to think. Mine was always like saltier foods. Like potato chips are like a trigger food for me. Like cheese enchiladas, cheeseburgers, like some of those things. Like I used to not be able to just eat half of a cheeseburger. I had to eat the whole thing into my stomach hurt, right? And we're talking like Texas-type cheeseburgers, guys. Or maybe it's the chips and salsa at a Mexican food restaurant. Whatever the trigger food is. French fries, yes. Oh, French fries, yeah. Sorry. So I want you to create a list of all those trigger foods. Like, create a list of every single food that comes to mind that has triggered you in the past. And I'll give you guys some time. Even though I think this will go fast. Like, people are really good at writing their trigger foods. Yeah, Coke. crisps. Stacy, I was thinking about you because my daughter is a Peppa Pig fan and she speaks British English now. And she told me not to be so cheeky. And she's 3. So I thought that was hilarious. And chocolate. And when you're done with your list, you can either like put them on here, or if you want to just pick your top one that you want to work on. Elena, I'm guessing you're going to say M&Ms or Cheetos. Yeah, that's funny, like right before you typed it. Yeah, Nutella. Okay. So mine, I'm going to use an old one because honestly, guys, this one is something that I don't really struggle with anymore. But cheeseburgers were like my thing. Like I can never just not eat the whole cheeseburger. Like to cut a cheeseburger in half and only eat half was like, you're talking crazy, people. Okay, so now that you have your trigger food list, I want you to pick one, like the one that triggers you the absolute most. And like I said, I'm going to pick cheeseburgers. And I want you to think back to the very first memory that you have about that food. And this might be kind of challenging because you have to really think. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes, but think back to your first memory of that food and what was the food's significance in your life. Oh, I forgot. I'm supposed to be putting prompts on here, guys. Alicia, fries, Diet Coke, chips Alfredo, garlic bread, pizza, cheeseburger, fries is probably at the top. Yeah, so Alicia, choose fries. Like, if it's like at the top. Okay. So, Alicia, the very first memory that you have is ordering French fries and not being able to have them, right? So, like, even though it was just timing or whatever, you weren't able to have them. What was the food significance? Like, what was the significance of that for you? Like, why was it the fries? And Stacy, Coca-Cola, we had glass bottles at Christmas, but didn't really have cola the rest of the year round. So yeah, it was a treat, right? So that was the significance. It was a treat. And you couldn't have it often. Like it was something that was kind of once in a great while. That's awesome. We'll wait for Elena and then we'll move on. Okay, so I was just thinking about my cheeseburger thing. And Elena, feel free to like write it whenever you feel like it. Um, Mine was a lot like yours, Alicia. So I remember going with my dad to McDonald's, but my dad doesn't do fast food. Like he just doesn't enjoy it. So I was little, probably like 4 or 5-ish, and I wanted the Happy Meal, but I liked the Big Mac sauce, and you cannot get the Big Mac sauce on the Happy Meal hamburger. So I remember my dad ordering I have a twin sister, my dad ordering my twin sister and I our own Big Macs. And I'm sure I didn't finish it, but this idea of like this big, huge cheeseburger, and I was like in total awe of it. Like I thought it was like the coolest thing. And then I remember he would go home and make a sandwich. Like that's just how he was. He just didn't eat fast food. But I still remember that Big Mac sauce. And today I like literally cannot eat at McDonald's because it just doesn't taste good at all to me. So yes, I am with you on that. Isn't that interesting how that one first memory can really impact and influence our lives, even like right now. I'm in my 30s and I'm like thinking back to like, ooh, that was so exciting to see it. My eyes are probably like this big. You hardly ever had fast food. You didn't have money to eat out often. Even fast food, it was a real treat. I associate fast food with fries and burgers, not breakfast. Yeah, I never did the whole breakfast. I've never got this whole breakfast thing. And never for dinner. Like we didn't have fast food for dinner. But every once in a while, my dad would take us for lunch because my dad worked nights and he was home during the day. And so every once in a while, if we were off school or something, we got to go, and it was a real treat too. So yeah, I feel yeah. I remember going out to lunch with friends in elementary school and buying M&Ms at a candy store and finishing them because I didn't think my parents would want me to have them at lunchtime. Yes, yes. So you had to finish them all because you didn't want to get in trouble. That's an interesting one, Elena. Okay, so prompt 3. Sorry, I was just thinking, Elena, I want you to think about some of those emotions. Like, you don't have to do it right now, but think about some of the emotions that go with that, like with that like hiding it and like being afraid to like enjoy something because you're afraid you're getting in trouble and like all the feelings surrounding that. I think that's interesting. I think that that's something that would be good for you to explore. Okay, so prompt 3 is describe your last experience with that food. How did it start? Write all the details, all the facts, all that good stuff. You're going to describe your last experience with that food. So when I say like, how does it start? Like, what was going on? Like, what was going on in your life? Like, what were you doing? Where were you? Why did you decide to do it? Don't put all the feelings into it, but just like the why. Like, just write down factual. Describe the experience like you're writing in a journal. Okay. I'll give you, say, 5 minutes. Okay, let's go through some of these. So, Alicia, Tuesday, I've been arguing with the board about some licensing stuff, had to change my plans for the day, missed lunch, but then ended up with extra time, so you went to the sub shop. It was more stress eating, not an intense craving for fries specifically at that time. Okay. Did you have fries though? I'm confused. Like it wasn't an intense craving, but you got them. Is that what it is? Help me understand. Okay, Stacy, I didn't sleep well last night despite waking up early, laid in bed. Then went for breakfast instead of bacon and eggs I had planned. I went for crunchy nut flakes with a cup of tea. After I finished that, I went for chocolate and a glass of cola. The cola I pretty much just sipped on through the early afternoon. Okay. Oh, okay, Alicia. Yes. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I had Trader Joe M&M in the house for the kids. It was the afternoon time when they were driving me nuts. So I said, I'll just have a couple, ate them, put the bag away, did some tidying up, went back, had some more, made some dinner, had some more, and the bag was empty. And Elena, I am picturing you. Tell me if I'm wrong, because like you don't want your kids to see the M&Ms, right? Like you don't want them to eat them right then. So you're probably sneaking off a little bit and having a little bit and then putting them away and then sneaking off and having a little bit and then going away, right? That's my vision for you. Let me get to the other prompts. Okay. And prompt 4. Now I want you to go back and I want you to like add the emotion. So like Alicia, you kind of did this. You were getting stressed out and you went to go get a sandwich, but the fries were there and you got them. Okay. So yeah, they were facing the other way, of course, right? My husband is notorious for this, and my husband is not a dysregulated eater. He has never been a dysregulated eater. He's always been in great shape. He's a competitive cycler, but he will hide in our pantry and eat things that like he doesn't want the kids to eat, with the door shut, like lights off, so that they don't see him eating that. Because then, as soon as your kids see you eating that, they're like, "Hey, I want some," right? So that's just it's funny, Elena. That reminded me of that. Okay, um, day day 4. Prompt 4. Now I want you to add the emotions to it. So how did you feel before? During, and then after that experience. And I want you to go beyond sad and frustrated. Like, I want you to start asking those questions because we're on like day 4 of this, right? You guys got the hang of it now. You so resonate with that. Yeah. Prompt 4. That post I put on about the dog yesterday, some of you guys saw that. I think that's more about my children than it is about my dog. Like my dog doesn't really, I mean, she'll like look to see what you're doing, but she's not like all over it. My kids are like all over it. Okay, so like I said, I want you to go back and like read what you wrote. So even if you're just reading it on the computer, read what you wrote and then think back at all the emotions that went with it. So Elena, you're sitting there, you're stressed out, the kids are driving you nuts. Like what are you actually like feeling? And yesterday you used the word escape. So, and I thought that was really interesting. So maybe go with something like that or dig a little deeper on that. But I want you to go beyond like sad or frustrated. So if you write like I was frustrated, ask yourself like, why was I frustrated? That kind of stuff. And then like if you say, let's say like, I was disgusted with myself because I ate the entire cheeseburger and I didn't eat the entire cheeseburger. So why was I disgusted? You know what I mean? Like keep asking why until you can get a little bit deeper. And I'll give you like 5 more minutes because that was like a long one. We might run over the hour a little bit on this one. That's okay. Before tired, during I didn't pay attention, but afterwards guilty for having sugar I don't need. Over the summer I've been having cola at work when I'm tired, but then I got into the routine of it and now I want to remove it. But I've been telling myself that I shouldn't have it. Yeah. Alicia, before I was frustrated because I felt like I wasn't being heard. That's like, you're so self-aware, Alicia. Like, I know you're trained in this stuff, but like you're so self-aware. Because things were not happening as quickly as I wanted them to. I was afraid that I wasn't going to have to stay in a super stressful situation longer than expected. And that I was inconveniencing my supervisor. I felt incompetent because of the licensing issues. I felt like a burden to both of my jobs, my supervisor and the licensing board, and like a useless parent to my kids. I was on the verge of an anxiety attack. Wow, you had a lot going on, girl. Elena, I was feeling angry that every night is the same thing. They sit down for dinner, I give them something, they say they don't want it, then I give them what they want, and they keep asking for more and other foods. I want them to just eat what I give them, try a new food, and sit and talk with me or listen to music. After I ate the M&Ms, I felt annoyed with myself, annoyed that I still turn to food, knowing it doesn't solve the problems or make me feel better. Yeah, these are all really good ones, guys. Like, give me 2 seconds. Hold on. There. I'm trying to think. Okay. I recognized how I was feeling though, so I spent the meal working on my game plan and options for moving forward. So by the end of the meal, I felt much better. I didn't even finish it, which is rare. There you go, Alicia. Okay, Stacey, I'm going back to you, the cola thing. When are you feeling tired? Is it like you work shift? Do you work shift work? I feel like you work shift work. I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel like you do. For whatever reason, I feel like you've mentioned this before, or I don't know, maybe I'm like imagining it. But is it a several hours after you eat? That's what I'm wondering. Like, is it several hours after you eat that you feel that slump? I think it might be timing for you. I think for you it would be a self-care practice thing. I think that's what you would need, something nourishing. If you're still on here, you may have dropped off. Alicia, you have a lot going on right now, girl, like a lot. You're like writing a program, you're working, and you're like thinking of writing a book with me. But seriously, you've got a lot going on. And I think for you, it's allowing yourself some grace to know that like you've taken on the entire free world, and you can't possibly give 150% to like everything that you have going on. Like something's got to give a little bit. You have so much going on. Yeah, like it's just too much. So I think for you, that's where some of that stems from. You feel tired first thing, but more alert before you go to bed. Yes. Yes. So yeah, Stacey, I think it's something that you're going, I think it's like that dip we were talking about. I really do. I think it's like that dip, and then we have to find something more nourishing to have to bring us back up versus like the cola, because I think it is. I think it's like this habit that you've got into, you like gave into it once, and then it's just this habit and it keeps going. Because I'm assuming, Stacey, that it pulls you up and then it drops you back down. That's usually what happens. And Elena, you were feeling, it's hard being a mom. Like, I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it. It's a hard job to be a mom. And especially during that witching hour where our kids are like all crispy and they're melting down, and we can't, like, you can't control it. It's out of your control. It's nothing that you can control. It's them. And they're, little people with free will. For the dinner thing, kids will eat what you give them if you establish that habit, if you establish that pattern for them. But it takes time. It's not something that you can do overnight. especially if this is the way it's always been. If you're like, okay, fine, you can get whatever you want, just please give me some peace of, peace and quiet. But it's something that you could definitely work on. For you, I think it's also self-care. I think that there's going to have to be a lot of self-care in that. Like, you're going to have to give yourself a little bit of grace. You're going to have to learn to breathe. You're going to have to learn all these things that you can do in substitute of the M&Ms, because M&Ms are your escape, right? Okay, so the next prompt is, what would it feel like not to be triggered by this food? Prompt 5. So what would it feel like to not be triggered by that food? So Stacy, you can have like one sip of cola and that's it. Or Alicia, like, you can smell the French fries, but you don't need to buy them. Like, you just get the sandwich, that kind of thing. That's what I'm talking about. Or Elena, like, you can have M&Ms in the pantry and you can be really like stressed and frustrated with the kids, and you just literally walk off. Like, you don't go to the M&Ms. Like, they're there, but you don't have them. That's what I'm talking about. Like, what would it feel like to not be triggered? That doesn't even make sense. Yes, it does. It makes sense, Alicia. So no, seriously, like, imagine yourself, like, visualize it for yourself, Alicia. You're walking in, like, let's do yesterday. You're walking into the sub shop. You know you want the steak sub, right? So you walk in and you smell the French fries and you order the steak sub and you sit down and you eat it, and you have no feelings of deprivation. Like, you're not like, oh man, I really wish I had had the fries. Freeing, like, I had more control. It's a good one, Stacey. I like that. Yeah, you don't have to be super mom. And here's the thing. When you make kids something to eat and they pick at it, that's okay. They don't have to eat an adult-sized quantity. Does that make sense? So that's okay. I think there's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves as moms, and we don't need to do that. Like, we don't have to be super mom, and it's okay. I come from the camp that kids want real. They just want the real you. Like, they just want a real mom that loves them. And they're cool if you make mistakes, as long as you love them and as long as you're there. I really do believe that. I'll give you guys 2 more minutes. Elena, there's another thing that popped up for me, for you. It bubbled up in me for you. Why is that so important to you? Number one, why is it so important to you that they eat? Think about that one. And then number 2, why does your, like, the value of you, like, trying to see how to word this, like, the value of yourself as a mother is you're letting that one thing, like mealtime, that defines whether or not you're a success, right? Like, I'm not a successful mom right now because my kids are not eating a nutritious dinner and they're not sitting there and they don't look like, you know, the happy-go-lucky kids on the sitcom, right? Like, why are we letting that, you know, them being real little people that have personalities and opinions define you as not being a successful mom? I would look into that. I would think about that one. Okay, so I will give you mine on this one. Like for the cheeseburger thing, because I can tell you that like I've pretty much conquered these food triggers. I still get triggered. I mean, I still like that maybe like my first initial thought, but I don't follow through. Like that's the difference now. It's like I'm not following through on that. So sometimes, you know, like yes, I'll get a cheeseburger, but you know, I'll just eat the amount that I want for my body, and then I literally hand the rest to my husband. And like the other day, I did have a Sonic. I was worn out. I was tired. I was just tired with life. And I got Sonic and I got the big cheeseburger and I ate half and I handed the rest to my husband. And I was like, here, you can have the rest. And let me tell you, to me, that feels absolutely freeing. Like that feels amazing to know that I can do that and I don't feel left out. Like I don't feel like I'm missing out on something. It feels like there's a peacefulness about it. There's peacefulness. There's a freedom that I can literally hand it over and it's okay. And it's okay. Like it really is okay, right? So the very last prompt, because I like to go big. Elena and I chatted yesterday. I like to go big, right, Elena? How would life look if this food was no longer a trigger? Like how go like, and I say like go big with this one. And you might have to like imagine all the triggers were gone, right? But how would that change the way you show up in this world if you didn't have that hook? So that's prompt 6. Oh, Alicia, I didn't see yours. Sorry. Easier said than done, Elena. Yeah. Okay, so it takes huge mindset shifts, okay? Huge mindset shifts. But they happen easier and quicker than you imagine, surprisingly. Alicia, it would be incomplete. It's hard for me to imagine a meal without a side. Ooh, that's a good one. It just feels weird. This has to go back to my mom. There always has to be at least 2 different foods at each meal. We couldn't only have a sandwich or whatever. Yes. So I have this, Alicia, because I have everything, right? No, I have this. And what I have to do is I do things completely. I do that. I always have a side. My parents, it was a big thing. You had to have a protein, a grain, or a starch, and you had to have a vegetable. You had to have all those 3 things to make a meal, right? That's what makes it complete. So I totally hear you on this. But the side doesn't have to be French fries, right? Like it could be anything. It could be like a side salad. Like it could be anything to make that feel complete for you. So there's this idea that you have to lose some things, and then there's this idea that you can replace it. Like you don't have to lose that feeling. Like having a side doesn't like not serve you. So you could totally do that. We just have to sub out, haha, no pun intended, sub out, I'm such a dork. Sub out those fries for something else that's more nourishing that feels complete. Make sense? Okay. So number 6, I'll give you like 2 more minutes because we're like going over. Sorry, guys. How would your life look if this food was no longer a trigger? And go big. Like what would you be able to do? And if you need help, I can imagine that for you. I'm really good at imagining. And Alicia and Elena, oh, Elena, I feel like I would feel happy, free, and not think about food all the time. I would eat intuitively, maintain a healthy weight, and just be more present in life. Yeah. So, yeah, like imagine if you, so like for you, I was just thinking like this whole dinner thing. Like you sit down and your kids are like, I don't want this. And you're like, you know what? This is dinner, guys. So just find something on your plate that you like. And you just sit there and you go, hey, how was your day? How was your day? What'd you do at school? How is that friend? How is this friend? Like you just have a nice chat with them. And the M&Ms are in the pantry, but you're a little frustrated, but you're just sitting there enjoying your time with your kids. Like that's what I want for you. Like that's what I really want for you. That feels very free to me. And that's what you want. Like you want to be more present. Like you want to be able to enjoy it. You don't want to have like this thing hanging over your head, because every time you sneak off, it's not just like the actual like moment where you're sneaking off to like get that little fix, right? It's not just like that one little moment. It's all of the thoughts that are going through your head and all of that conversation that you have inside your head of, you know, I'm so frustrated. I want my M&Ms. No, you're not going to get the M&Ms. Just go get a little bit. Okay, well, how much is a little bit? You don't have all those conversations in your head. Like you just sit there and enjoy your kids. Like that to me feels awesome for you. That to me feels really good. What do you think? Like, Alicia, how would you feel? Sorry, my hair looks weird because of my glasses. It like pushes it out. Oh, goodness gracious. Anything else come up? Because we're gonna. So today, just while you guys are finishing up, today I'm gonna send out, and if you're watching the replay, feel free to comment on here, and then when you comment, like Elena is a perfect example. Yesterday she missed it, but then she went back and she started typing her stuff, and I was able to like give her a few things to go deeper on. So if you're watching the replay, do that. Let me like give you some direction on this, okay? Just because you weren't able to make it at this time doesn't necessarily mean that you missed out. Just type away and I'll comment. And then tonight you're going to get the nutrition bonus. So if you haven't signed up for the emails, I know I keep saying that, but some people haven't signed up for the emails. So if you haven't signed up for the emails and you're watching this and you want the nutrition piece of it, click the link. I'll have a link on here. Click the link and then put in your information and I'll send you the nutrition bonus as well. Because today is going to be a good one. Today is all about triggers and what we can do nutritionally to help circumvent those triggers, okay? So that is it for today. Miss Alicia, if you come back and you have something, please let me know, and then I'll get back with you on that. If you guys don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and hop off because I've got, well, an 11 o'clock that I'm 6 minutes late for, but it's not that big of a deal. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Comment in the Facebook group. Comment on the homework in the Facebook group. Do whatever you need to do so that you feel like you're getting enough out of this. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.